Hello everyone and welcome to the Vortex, where lies and falsehoods are trapped and exposed. I'm Michael Voris. Politicians in general have a horrible reputation for lying, for pandering and saying whatever they think people want to hear so they can get elected. And this is where Barack Obama is such a breath of fresh air. This is why we should believe Barack Obama virtually whenever he speaks. He speaks only the truth. Every word he utters, well, practically every word, is the truth. Most of the time, he says exactly what he thinks, most of the time. However, the problem with the Messiah is he doesn't mean to speak the truth. It sort of just slips out. His vastly superior intellect has arrived at the truth so quickly and so concisely that he can't help but spit out his true thoughts. You know, it's causing problems for him. He praised Detroit Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick while the mayor was embroiled in ethics violations. He later backpedaled and has since denounced the disgraced mayor who pleaded guilty to felonies. He denounced him as a bad man. He sang the praises of his racist, bigoted, anti-American preacher of 20 years, even borrowed an expression of the Reverend writes as one of his book titles. Now he says he can't figure out how the Reverend went so far off the deep end. He hung around with convicted felon Tony Rezko in the slimy underworld of Chicago politics. Rezko, an influence peddler, even helped Obama buy his house. Everyone always said Tony was a sweet guy. Now, Obama says he doesn't know much about him. He had friendly enough ties to former Weather Underground terrorist bomber William Ayers that Ayers actually kicked off Obama's political career with a fundraiser in his own house. Now Obama says they just sort of saw each other occasionally. How do we know all these things about his unsavory friends and associates? Because Big Mouth Barack keeps telling us. He keeps running off at the mouth and revealing things that other politicians know to shut up about. Now that really is change in the world of politics. But not content to keep unearthing his unseemly acquaintances, Obama simply can't resist the urge to keep blabbing. He called small-town Americans gun-toting, angry, God-fearing, and bitter. He blurted out the comments to a hall of left-wing liberals in San Francisco when he was asking them to help finance his campaign of change. True to form, the elite, powerful, superior, celebrity-successful crowd reached deep into their pockets to help finance the campaign against angry, bitter, God-fearing, inferior small-town hicks all over America. Unaware his comments had been recorded and blasted all over the internet, Obama backpedaled and said he'd been misunderstood. Even wife Michelle has a penchant for blather. She was happy to exclaim she'd never been proud of America until Barack the Messiah arrived from heaven to save us. Of course, Obama backpedaled and said she'd been misunderstood. Then the Savior stood in front of a crowd and called unexpected pregnancies a punishment. Later on, Obama backpedaled and said he'd been misunderstood. He ranted on for months and months that the surge of U.S. troops in Iraq was wrong, wouldn't work, stupid idea. Now that the surge has proven wildly successful, you guessed it, Obama has backpedaled and said he'd been misunderstood. For 2 years, he's yelled, "Withdraw the troops now, pull them out now." When asked what would happen if withdrawing U.S. troops caused chaos, he said, well, if elected, he'd have to look at the situation on an ongoing basis. But what about his call to withdraw now? Obama has backpedaled and said he'd been misunderstood. As an Illinois state representative, he ensured that babies that survived abortion were left to die in soiled linen closets of hospitals. He never actually admitted to this one. He actually dropped back into old politician habits and just flat out lied about his votes. This may be the one time when the Savior wasn't actually misunderstood. He just lied. The list of disconnects between what he says and the truth is seemingly endless. Obama either it means exactly what he says or he's the most misunderstood man in America. And of course, there is the whopper backpedal, or as the Savior would term it, misunderstanding. At Saddleback Church in California, he was asked by Pastor Rick Warren when a baby gets human rights. Here's what he said.
At what point does a baby get human rights, in your view?
Well, you know, I think that whether you're looking at it from a theological perspective or a scientific perspective, answering that question with specificity, you know, is above my pay grade.
Now that was quite some time ago, a comment that truly disturbed a lot of people. A man running for president of the United States considers the question of human life above his pay grade? But after a month or so to think it over, now he believes his answer was too flip. This time you can watch the backpedal for yourself.
Answering that question with specificity, is above my pay grade.
Was that phrase too flip?
Probably, yeah. I mean, what I intended to say is that as a Christian, I have a lot of humility about understanding when does the soul enter into.
Goes back to Augustine.
It does. It's a pretty tough question.
Look, we can forgive Obama for saying something the wrong way. He didn't mean it to say it this way, should have said it that way. We all make those kind of mistakes. But when we do, we usually recognize it the second the words come out of our mouth. That's why we have expressions and say, I didn't mean to say it that way, or let me say it differently. But, Obama didn't say that. Think about this now. He's in the middle of an interview. He's the only person being interviewed. He can say anything he wants. At any time, he could have just said to Rick Warren, Rick, excuse me, I want to go back to something. I didn't say it right, or I should have said it this way or that way. But he didn't. He didn't fix the record the next day, or the next week, or the next 3 weeks. But he sure did fix it pretty fast when his pal Detroit Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick pleaded guilty, when Tony Rezko headed to the slammer, when terrorist bomber Bill Ayers came up, when lunatic Reverend Wright kept jaw-jacking, when Michelle stuck her foot in her big mouth, when his position on the surge was proved wrong, when it became clear pulling the troops out immediately was a bad idea, but on this one subject of abortion and when human life begins, he just falls silent. Why is that? Why did it take him weeks to figure out he'd been too flip? Simple answer. Because he really believes that unborn children shouldn't have any rights. Heck, he even thinks children who survive abortion shouldn't have any rights. That's why he can give a flip answer, because to this baby-killing politician, it's a flip topic. As long as he gets votes, he doesn't care. Only after he finds out that millions of people were so ticked off at His Royal Highness's flipness does he backpedal and say he was misunderstood. Barack Obama supports abortion on demand right up until birth for any reason whatsoever, and infanticide if the abortionist screws up and doesn't finish the murder. And this he calls change. Senator, Christians, as you claim to be, don't kill babies. Remember Obama in November, soft on terrorists but tough on fetuses. I'm Michael Voris.